what is happening with the Giants then? That means that they hold all the cards.
The Giants hold all the cards, and they can either get probably 3-1s and something from Buffalo to move down to 12. But the only way they do that, in my opinion, is if Dave Gettleman and Pat Shurmur convince John Mara and Steve Tisch, in essence, it's not really that way. But if they convince the rest of the building that, listen, we're fine with Eli for the next 2 years. He's fit as a fiddle. He'll be fine for the next 2 years. Now, if I were them, I'd take a quarterback at number 2, and I'd resist temptation. But you have to really like one of the quarterbacks. And, whether it's Rosen, whether it's Allen, whether it's Baker Mayfield, you're going to have to or Darnold if he doesn't go 1, then you really have to start saying to yourself, okay, we have to be sure with one of those guys at number 1. And I'll tell you this, Rich. I was talking to an NFL draft decider, the guy who's going to make his picks in 20 days for his team. We were talking, and I said, how concerned are you with what Jim Mora said about Josh Rosen? And he goes, quite concerned. And because he said that's a guy who lived with Josh Rosen for 3 years. And he obviously has some questions about him. But be that as it may, the interesting part of the conversation beyond that was that he said that if I were a quarterback at the top of this draft, I would pray to go to the New York Giants. Because Eli Manning not only is a great guy and a really good player, but you're going to be behind him and you are going to learn how to play quarterback in the NFL. This guy will help you. And look, hey, Josh McCown will help you too. And I think Josh McCown is a coach on the field and all that stuff. He'd be great. But I think there'd be something to play with Eli Manning for 2 years that would be great for any of those guys. If I were the Giants and could get Josh Rosen in with Eli Manning for 2 years, I would absolutely love that if I were a Giants fan.
Well, a couple things you just said I want to expound upon in the couple minutes I have left with you. Peter King of the MMQB. Let's take the Jim Mora stuff. He's coming on this show on Thursday. I heard him on Dan's show. Before that, he was on the NFL Network. He's been on Path to the Draft all week. He said that this stuff has been misconstrued, that he has been as positive about this kid, that he loves him, and that a lot of this stuff is being spun. You spoke to him. Did you, when you spoke with him, get the sense that he had some reservations about Josh Rosen being a professional quarterback of franchise note?
I would say the only reservation that I sensed from him is whether he was going to be absolutely, totally 100% all in. Because he's got a lot of other things in his life that he likes to do. And I bring up Josh Freeman. Okay. Josh Freeman failed in Tampa for a lot of reasons, foremost of which was that he didn't want to work on Tuesdays during the season. And, there's 31 other quarterbacks who did want to work on Tuesday, not necessarily 10 hours, but 6, and you just have to do that. If you're a quarterback in the NFL, you got to walk in the building Wednesday and have a good idea about what the game plan is, because you've already been talking about it with your coordinator and quarterback coach. But that's really about the only thing. I think that Jim Mora, the vast majority of what he told me last Sunday was positive on Josh Rosen. That seemed to have gotten lost in the wash. I don't blame people for picking out some of the things, but I do blame people for picking out only the quasi-negative things, the millennial stuff, all that stuff. Jim Mora, in 88% of the conversation that I had with him, was very positive about Josh Rosen.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern on Audience.